Okay, great evening, everyone. So I'm sitting here with Dave Johnson that channels the man in the moon, and I wanted to ask him about his spiritual path, how he got started, what's going on with him, and why the man in the moon.
Good questions. Yeah. So how did I get started? Well, like all of the people watching, I had a couple of, things happen when I was a child that I did not understand. One poltergeist experience. I was raised in a completely agnostic household. My parents were not religious at all, which was a huge advantage. I had no bias again. And I have wonderful parents, but I also had just no bias against this, any spiritual stuff. I just didn't make any sense to me. So I just was curious, and I was curious about other people, and many of the people said, I don't know what you're talking about. I'll just tell you one funny thing. And as a childhood, I was for some reason, I'm always friends with the smartest person in class. I'm not the smartest person in class, but I was always best friends with that guy or that girl. And when I was young, John Mitten was my best friend, and we were, since maybe first grade, yeah, six. And he was very engineering centered, very square sort of family, etc. And as a child, we were reading this book, and the book had the final page was see if you're psychic, see if you're intuitive. And it was a series of yes, no questions. And it was like, right, left or something. And so he asked these questions. Again, totally serious person. And even at six, and he says, oh, yeah, da, da, da. And he asked these questions, and he's asking these questions. I say yes and no, right, left, whatever. And he starts looking at me with this really surprised face. And I kind of smile, and then we keep going, and we keep going, and we keep going. And he puts down the book, and he goes, Dave, you got all 25 right. And then, of course, they have a little columns here that say, if you're 10 to 15, you're moderate, whatever it is. And, we get to 25, and he's just like, and he was stunned. I was stunned. And I just remember the look on his face because, again, smart, scientific, A plus in math guy. There are a few other incidents like that, but they were so outside of my normal experience
Yeah.
until I was 17 when I had a sort of Satori moment, just driving in a car. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's the way that it's supposed to be. And I just sort of lasted a minute, and I was like, what is this? And I spoke to other, no, I never felt that. So what is this? I wound up studying in university, and my minor was philosophy, but I always chose the mystical stuff because I was just so curious about this. And it sort of built and built and built upon itself. It really came together when I was in the Peace Corps. I was in Hungary and I taught English. And I saw a brilliant shaman, brilliant guy, Jamolfi Istvan. And the whole day was magic. I couldn't believe it. I was completely transformed. And he is that guy who looked right at me. And I mean, I didn't speak Hungarian very well.
Right.
All of a sudden, I started to understand Hungarian. And without words, he looks at me and he's like, I know who you are. And I could almost hear him audibly in my ears. And I kept going like, why do these things keep syncing up? I would, do the meditation, and then the person would tell me, oh, next we're going to do the meditation. And I'd just done it
Yeah.
in my mind. And I was like, this is just really syncing up. And this guy was almost looking at me and kind of smiling. I know you are, right? And like, that was really a shift. I worked on shamanism for 25 years. I just did it on my own. I read some books about it, saw a few people who were really great. But I didn't really get the whole, initiation or any of that. I did it pretty much on my own, just reading books. And I started to do it with groups. And from then, there was one group where I started to get a message for each person.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh, I must be crazy. Come on, I'm not a psychic. And then one of the people in one of the groups says, you're psychic.
You're psychic, yeah.
And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. What use is that? And So, she really talked me into it, and I'll be forever grateful to her. And so, yeah, that's pretty much how the trajectory happened. The day I made my first video, I had started to watch people like Lena Rodriguez and, Rosie and Linda G and others. And as I watched them, I got a message. You're a channel.
Yeah.
You're supposed to do that. I'm like, well, maybe I'm just being egotistical, but something said yes, yes, yes. And so I did my first video, and just things showed up to say that this is what you're gonna do. I had some help of other psychics and stuff, but I also will ever be grateful to Lena Rodriguez, because I sent her a message and said, will you let me channel for you? And she says 99% of the time, I'm like, yeah, this person's crazy. But for some reason, I said yes to you. And, a week later, she put me on her show. I think 3 days later, I had my first client. So she really should get a lot of credit. Her generosity of spirit is remarkable. I'm really lucky to have her as a friend and mentor. So yeah, now here we are.
So how long have you had your channel that
2016, I think just before Christmas, 2016. So it was maybe just a couple of months after the 2016 election. Yeah, I mean, like everybody else, I actually had a very psychic experience a few days before that election. In 2016, I was standing on these rocks, and in Australia, they have some pretty astonishing surf. And I was standing on these rocks, and I look at these rocks, 30 feet out, and I thought, wow, I'd love to go stand there, but maybe I shouldn't. And the water was some distance away. Out of nowhere, this huge wave comes over, and I was like, wow, I'm really lucky I didn't go stand there. I'd be out in the water right now. And that something sank. It was this big dark wave. And I said, uh-oh, this is going to happen, and it's going to be really bad.
Yeah.
And I just knew from that moment, 3 days before, I knew that it was going to go the wrong way. And I was shocked. I could not believe that it would go that way. But I just felt it. I'll tell you, my partner and I did not sleep a wink the night of that election, because we both knew this is going to be bad. Now, he's not an intuitive guy for the most part, or at least he wouldn't say he is, but he also was just very pragmatically worried.
Yeah. So how did you pick the man in the moon?
Well, that's a great story too. I did a vision quest out in Mount Shasta. And when I did the vision quest, I had been doing shamanic work for a while. And, in a vision quest, you sort of go and you surround yourself by with tobacco, sort of tobacco 99, I think, little tobacco pouches. And you have your prayers, and it's all different colors, etc. And I'm sitting there, and I had a medical emergency. So I had actually had a knee operation, simple knee operation, but they'd given me gas. And when you do a vision quest, you don't eat. So I did not eat for, 4 days. Well, my body was going down to the cells that had the gas in them. So I was constantly sort of knocking myself unconscious. And when they come to check on me, they're like, oh, he's sleeping. He's fine. Well, I was knocking myself unconscious, and I started to have problems with my breathing and digestion. It was an emergency. So for the first time, I had sort of seen this character who sort of looks like Gandalf. And I saw this guy. For the first time, I asked directly. And I said, should I get off this mountain? And he says, this was the first time he was audible, get off this mountain right now and get some food. Okay, well, I stood up and almost fainted.
Yeah.
I sort of stumbled in, and the lady who was running it, caught me in her arms as I fell into them, had some eggs, went back to the mountain, and it was fine, right? But it was a sort of first connection, direct connection. The day that I made my video, the day that my first video, I actually went to an auction and I bought some just planters, but there was a bunch of stuff together with the $10 that I purchased. So this is the first day, first video, make the video, go to the auction, pick up the stuff, and in this box is this figure,
I don't,
right?
there
Who
you
looks
go.
pretty much exactly like Man in the Moon. And I was like, oh, that's him. I just accidentally purchased his image. And so that was just, again, as we all have these sort of synchronicities line up,
Exactly. There are no accidents.
there are no accidents. And I was that was really And of course, I always think of the Man in the Moon as almost like the masculine aspect within the feminine.
Yeah.
We might think of the moon as a part of the earth that got separated and, put out there and sort of like a satellite. I think the Man in the Moon is really a collective of a bunch of different guides. And yeah, I would say that I saw him fairly close to the beginning of the work. I saw this figure even in Hungary when I was starting to do a bit of this practice.
Yeah. So when you're doing your channeling, are you hearing it audibly or seeing it, or how does this work for you?
Well, I'm going to say that there's kind of two different kinds of channeling that I am familiar with. The first one is the one that when I'm doing anything social or political inside of predicting, that is sort of works like I do some meditation beforehand to try to ground myself. I use pyramids and then I sort of bring in a light pyramid so that I'm somewhat as clear as I can be. And then when that happens, I'll sort of be in a calmer state. And then in the social political stuff, I'll ask a question and I'll see an image.
Okay.
And it's kind of like I'll sort of, sometimes maybe I've jumped to some conclusions, right? Like in the last election, I saw Strumpf as a, King Kong figure for a moment. And for a moment, I'm like, uh-oh, he's gonna win. But I didn't really want to believe that. So I wanted to know that, spirit isn't wrong. My interpretation of the images is somewhat influenced by what I'd like to see. And I hope everybody watches me and watches my mistakes, because you too, as intuitives, part of it is for you to learn and for me to learn, right?
Right.
The second really trance work is I go through that same process of preparation, and it's almost like I'm going upstairs or a ladder or sometimes even an elevator, and I will meet a guide out there of some kind, and they are almost always different, right? And I will meet these guides and I will give them a little test and say, all right, show me something so that I know you come from the light. And if I feel it in my heart, if it feels good, if I like what I'm seeing, all right. I think this is really important to note, because there have been a couple of tricksters out there.
Yeah, I always say, do you bow to the light? And the tricksters will not bow to the light.
Wow. Okay. So interesting. You and I have never spoken about this, but we're doing exactly the same thing, right? So that if it feels good, I'm like, all right, you can come in. And I want to make this clear. Everybody can learn to channel. I did not jump into trance channeling. I was not so sure about that kind of work.
Yeah.
I waited some time and I didn't do it until there were others nearby. Like they were on Zoom, but nearby, who were able to walk me through it and make sure that it was safe. Feel free, y'all, to do that. And then when it shows up, I'm like, all right, I'm going to kind of step a step aside. I'm not stepping out of me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm leaving space. So I like to think of it as being like that guy on the stage. I can draw the curtain, but they are speaking through me. And it's quite different
Right.
When that happens, when that trance work happens, I don't really understand what they're talking about. It's beyond me, right? I don't know what karma is, right? But they do. I tend to give 500 examples. Okay, I'm quite talkative. They are not. They'll give the one perfect example. They're much more succinct. And they will also sometimes use words that I don't use and speak in a way that I don't. And I will have to watch my own videos afterwards to know what the heck I just said. Because again, even then, it's almost like watching someone else. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know what they're talking about until I watch myself again. It's um, it's really a fascinating process, and I would say also I have a feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, when it's Mary, you just have this feeling of just beauty and grace and love and non-judgment. I don't have. Okay, I am terribly judgy.
Can you
They are
pull
not.
can you pull anyone in, or are there just specific ones that you work with when you trans channel?
Well, I just go and see who shows up. I'll
Okay.
test them. So it's kind of like, all right, it's up to you guys, whoever y'all think is appropriate to talk right now. Um, but I will test it.
Mhm.
So I think I could. Now I have worked with a wonderful man named Ben, and he has. It's great because he asks these questions: what is karma, etc. And when he asks, we did go through a series, like a series of 5 where we spoke to Jesus, series of 6 where we spoke to a Native American man, series where we spoke to Judas.
And do you have that on one of your channels that people could
Well,
watch?
I'm working on it. It takes a lot of editing. The problem with these kinds of videos is that they do require a good deal of work, and we're talking 3 days of editing because there's some personal stuff about him that I don't want to put in there, among other things. Some of them are questions for him. We're still working on that together, and we do plan on putting them up as a series. But among other things, people don't necessarily want to spend 45 minutes listening to these particular avatars for the most part. There are some people who've got the time to do that. Mostly people are like, I got immediate problems here. I need to know if the world's going to blow up today just so I can feel calm. And that's where a lot of our work comes in. But these will be released eventually as a series, and they'll be on the Pyramid 4 channel, my other channel where your past life regression is.
Yeah. And so let's move on to your past life regressions. When did you start doing them? And what's your favorite thing to do? Is it the regular political? Is it the higher element channeling? Is it past life regressions?
Well, one of the funny things that happened before I came to Australia, I was living in California and suffering in the way that Americans are really suffering. I was really broken, in trouble, and I did make a shift to sort of more positive thinking, and I really made the choice to start watching videos that were a bit more positive and about manifestation. There's a limit to that and all that stuff, but during this time, I came upon some money, and I did pay this brilliant psychic woman who said, in the future, Dave, you're actually going to have multiple streams of income. I'm like, you're crazy. I hate multitasking. I would never do that. I'm not capable of doing more than one thing at the same time. Well, that's when it wound up happening. So, in terms of my favorites, I really, there's just great things about all of them. The political stuff I think is interesting in its own right. I like the connection I have to the people of the world, the American people. I think it's important. I am very patriotic. And so, as a patriotic person who believes in democracy and fairness, I put them out. And I'll tell you, living in Australia, it's safer for me to do that. There are many people out there in the community who are limiting what they say because it can be dangerous. And so I feel like it's sort of an obligation to go there, right? So there's that sort of category, and I love it, and I think it's really, really important. There are some channels who don't do that, and I can completely understand why. It's a different vibration. I really love teaching people how to channel because, as you know, we can't do it all. We can help few people, and they can help few people, and they can help few people. And so that's how we're really spreading the light. It's a one-on-one, even if we're just helping them with problems, physical problems, and stuff like that. I just really love that connection because it's just a one-on-one connection. And virtually all of those people are just, working on things that I'm working on. So it's sort of reflecting me. There's that stuff I really enjoy. I really enjoy the shamanic work, which I'm doing more locally here. I'm doing like monthly shamanic journey circles. That is really useful because, again, I'm not doing anything for you. You're coming to the circle and I'll facilitate. You'll find your power animal. You'll get an answer. And that's really nice because it's usually local, right? So I'm meeting lots of people here in Australia who knew the hidden depths of some of the people that I'm meeting.
Question. Could you set up sessions to do shamanic over Zoom or something else?
Yes, and
Have
I
you done
do.
that?
I do that. Yeah, and you can make an appointment to do that. I've even done, three people at once. It tends to be perhaps less popular.
Right.
I would say to people who are there, don't hesitate to look around locally. And people sometimes wonder, how should I choose a person? Well, if you look at a person and that you get a good feeling and say go with that. If you want to make an appointment with me, by all means. It's nice to be in a physical space. It's nice to be in nature when you're doing that. It's nice to be able to meet people face to face because one great thing about shamanic circles, you're going to become friends with people in that circle forever,
Yeah.
right? They are the people you're supposed to meet. And so just to have new pals is great. I love past life regressions, and they are a bit difficult to do. They take sometimes 4 hours. There's a lot of preparation. It is difficult to, you do hypnosis portion for a couple hours. So, you can't drink any water beforehand because you'll have to go to the bathroom. So you gotta just physically, it can be demanding sitting in a chair. But I'm, as a student of history and the light, I find it absolutely so much more interesting. You'll be talking to somebody's grandma, 75-year-old person, and in 2 minutes, they'll be shoeing a horse in the 16th century, and they'll just tell you how to pound the metal out, and they'll talk about this, and they'll talk about the horses. This lady in her normal life, she doesn't know anything about shoeing horses, but she'll talk about it from the point of view of an expert. They will tell you the details about the French Revolution that you would never, from a human perspective, not from a book. And so I find that just so interesting. But the most interesting thing about the past life regression is the lessons.
Right.
We go through a lifetime and then we get to the end and we kind of have a life review. And sometimes the life review is so beautiful. They're like, you did it all. It's perfect. You accomplished the most amazing things under great duress. And the only other thing about that is just there's a lesson. I'll just give like a lesson for me has been, I was a Native American in a lifetime, and I married a white woman because like an ambassador, I wanted to save my tribe. But it ended really badly. They killed my tribe anyway. And when
So,
I went to the past life review, they're like, look, you can't use a person as a means to an end.
yeah.
You didn't marry for love. That was wrong of you, Dave.
Yeah.
And so, I thought I was going the moral high ground. But so I always find these very brilliant, very complex life lessons.
Yeah.
My energy came to learn that, and all of our energies are learning that. And it's not even a good bad or a pass fail. It is, what is there to learn in the life?
Yeah. Have you found that you find sometimes you get a healing through that? I know I did a past life regression for somebody before, and they were allergic to horses. the past life regression, they had gotten kicked by a horse and died. And so in this lifetime, they had an allergy. When they came out of the hypnosis, that allergy was gone.
Yes. That is a large portion of the regression. Sometimes people would say quantum healing. And part of it is the people will say, oh, this is why I'm afraid of heights. I got thrown off a mountain.
Yeah,
No wonder I am by the religious people of that mountain. I got thrown off the top of it. Or this is why I'm terrified of bald men
yeah,
because I was in a concentration camp, and the bald man did really bad things to people. And what's great is they'll come out with fewer physical problems. They'll come out with no longer being afraid of heights.
right, right. So it can have really beneficial things if
You're
you
right.
know how to direct it, etc.
Yours was especially interesting though, because yours was not so much about life lessons. It was like I was talking to the light. I was like, oh, Lady G, she's a messenger here. And it was not so much those, what did Lady G learn? It was like, here I am, the light, Dave. This is what the light's doing.
Yeah, you may enjoy that thing I sent to you. It's from the new book, Age of Aquarius, about moving humanity forward. And the channelings that are coming through that are that 12th dimension Arcturian channel things that are coming. And you'll find that they have a really different flavor from, of course, the political stuff and the other things that I'm doing that are more, you know.
I'm very much looking forward to reading it, right? Especially having done that regression with you. I know that it's going to be good.
Well, we have the first book is out, and I'm working on the second one. So been doing a lot of, I do some channeling that you can see on the YouTube channel, but then I have other channelings I'm having come through, so they'll have some new things in the book as well.
Good for
But yeah,
you.
yeah, those things are being worked on. So yeah, I'd be interested to see your take on it once you get time to actually look at it, etc.
hmm
So I wanted to ask you also, I notice when you're doing your channeling that you're in motion, the energy is moving.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have that other times as well, or only when you're channeling?
Well, I know I'm clicking into something when that happens. And sometimes it'll be like, one time I went to a yoga class
Mhm.
and she was the most effervescent, she laughed the whole session. She was brilliant. And she just laughed and laughed and laughed. Before it even started, I sat down and I'm like, oh, this woman's really good. She's really good. I'm already vibrating, and it is
Yeah,
not conscious. I let it go, but it's not conscious. I have had that happen where I'm completely unexpected, and where just somebody last night I was meeting with a group of people, and we were talking about the Bhagavad Gita,
right.
and I literally sat down, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is going to be a great session. So it does happen rarely outside of the channeling work.
Yeah, because that's what happens with the Kundalini. Here, when I'm
Ah,
grounding, I'll go one way, then it'll stop, it'll go the other way, and then it'll
mm,
stop and it'll go right straight up the spine. So, yeah, that's, you're beginning to have these awakenings of
mm,
these energetic things.
mm.
And we've got 4 minutes left, so we're going to have to kind of concise this. But
Sure.
I imagine you're aware of energetic shifts that are taking place on the planet now. Are you feeling those physically with those shifts coming in?
I have not focused on that. I can kind of tell a lot is going on.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of a shielding going on because I'm getting a little overwhelmed,
Oh, okay.
right? And I know a lot of my clients are they're getting overwhelmed, and so I'm doing a little bit of this. Okay, if I take all this, and I'm not going to be able to focus on anything,
Mhm.
um, taking away my ability to work because wars are very disturbing. Cruelty is very disturbing.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I'll say that I'm feeling it. And also, I'm limiting the feeling because it's overwhelming.
Yeah, well, when you're an empath, and then knowing what belongs to you and what doesn't belong to you, and
Mhm.
saying, no, you can have that, it's not mine, so I'm not going to take that on.
And there's good energy too. I
Exactly.
think you and I are very much aware that the shift is dramatic, but the light is coming in. We are seeing a lot of negative stuff. That's what the media is producing. But
Right.
they're not showing the things that are harder to see.
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, the things are crumbling now. It's starting to dismantle. And no matter what they're trying to bring in to skew the light, it's not working as well. More and more people are starting to wake up and be able to discern a little better what's going on. So,
Yeah, a lot of people.
yeah, we've got 2 minutes and 46 seconds left. Is there something major you want to say? And
Well, let's just check in and see what's out there.
okay.
What are you guys showing me? Okay, two hands opening up, and that's what I get. Let's open up to the light. And that's a message for Dave too. Don't suppose that I'm perfect at this. It's kind of like Dave, don't focus on all that stuff. There is a lot of good out there,
Yeah.
and watching this stuff go on, it can be really depressing. Choose to say, all right, I know that now. I am a responsible citizen. I'm going to do what I can. But what about this beautiful light? And it's like I see a ball of light and sort of waves reverberating through, right? I would ask all of y'all to, notice the terrific work Lady G's doing. This is possible now. It wouldn't have been as easy before. There's a lot of good coming from a lot of people that are really lifting our vibration. Don't hesitate to focus on that. And I just get actually, I kind of see Mary here, and others. They're all there. They're all there. They're just waiting for us to talk to them. You can all do that.
Exactly. They're just waiting to aid humanity as much as we allow them in to do that. So today I'm wearing my Age of Aquarius shirt.
You sure are.
Yes. So that's what I got the most recent channeling, that the things we wanted to do in the 60s to bring that in, it was too early, but we planted the seed and they went off
Yes.
in the direction of drugs and sex and stuff rather than agape love. So now it's reopening at this time to move forward with that expression that we wanted to have during that time. So
Mhm.
some of us have kept that seed and we're continuing forward. So
Yes.
we are less than a minute left. So namaste. Thank you so much for coming, and really enjoyed this.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show. Love to everyone. We can all open to the light.
Absolutely. So on that note, we're done. It just less than a minute left. So thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Take care, everyone.